human by bringing clarity, compassion, and some structure to those messy conversations. And I am so grateful for my amazing co-host today, Suzie Bishop, who is latest one is publishing not one but two books. So Suzie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Molly. I'm so excited to be here. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, Suzie is one of the brightest lights ever. And our topic today, and I think she's just proof of the pudding, is finding our voices and learning how do we really show up and speak up and lead to our full potential. And I want Suzie, because she has a really unique vantage point in the leadership business. She'll tell you a little bit about it, but where there's some generational, she's got a grandfather, parents involved, and this is a really unique construct. And so I'm kind of in awe, Suzie, that you've made it all work. And she is a mom, loving mom, wife. She's got kind of doing it all. And so I love you coming out with us today and kind of giving us a glimpse of what the real story is.
You are so sweet. It's like trying my best. So I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so talk a little bit about the business that you're in and some of the legacy there, because I'm not sure all our listeners will know, but I think there's a lot of a really rich history there.
Absolutely. So work at the Center for Leadership Studies, currently in Vice President of Product Development role and recent author, which is so exciting. Got my hands on the book just this week. But Dr. Paul Hersey, my grandfather, started as a professor, and he was studying like what's the one best leadership style. And of course, we know it depends on the situation, the circumstances, the context. But in Escondido, California, the Center for Leadership Studies was born in 1969. About 2012, moved to where I am now, the Cary, Raleigh area in North Carolina. And we do situational leadership training, but really we build leaders, we develop leaders. We believe that leadership is influence, so it's not just within the hierarchy or managers. We really look at all levels of the organization. We build custom leadership development programs, and we do executive coaching, skills coaching, and now the publishing pieces. So kind of a nice long legacy, like you said, some generational aspects, familial aspects, but have the greatest team and love what we do.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. We have to do a shout out to our dearest Marshall Goldsmith, who was learned a lot also from your grandfather, and obviously is the reason that we even know each other. So we love you, Marshall. So shout out to him. Suzie, you shared with me, and I love, so people talk about their journeys and careers. And I think for people, especially earlier in career, it might look like it was all this perfect path and all the doors opened at the right time. Yours in particular is not what you expected. So perhaps share how it ended up that you were actually even in the business.
Yeah. I also love the symbolism of doors, and Sarah MacArthur, I know a mutual friend of ours, and she always talks about Frances Hesselbein's quote of, opening doors for others. I have always been someone that even if there's like a little bit of a crack, I'm like trying to bust my way through it, but also, bring others with me in that. I was going down the route of, pharmaceutical sales and communications, and was working for a large company here in Raleigh, and was super excited to share with my family that I got the job after the college internship, and I felt like I was checking all the boxes that I was supposed to, graduating with work. And at that time, family was going through a lot with my grandfather being diagnosed with cancer, and we wanted to make sure that we were taking care of him. So they moved from Escondido to Cary, North Carolina, so that we could do so. And the company was going through a transition. So my mom and our CEO, Maureen Shriver, at the time stepped into that role. So she had been working in custom training for over 25 years. They worked with all the pharma companies on the East Coast, and we're doing customized training mostly for like sales villages. And we kind of took that custom training company and applied it to this 50-year-old legacy driven company founded in situational leadership. and created it into the modern organization it is today. So, stepped in at that time and have found myself in all sorts of roles in the company and have kind of grown up in that way.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. She was telling me you earlier, like, oh, there's no website. We need a website. So, I think there's certain personalities could see this need, and you're like, I feel the need, and I
Yeah.
love that about you. I think the other thing I was really keen for you to share, Susie, is your energy. You're just very warm, and you're not necessarily kind of in people's face. You're not necessarily going to just take the floor. And I think there's probably a lot of folks out there who they're in work or what have you. They have ideas. We call this, finding our voices. You can't really have the impact. People can't really know the value they can add if you're not actually using your voice, making your words matter, which is the whole reason for Say It Skillfully. So I know you reflected a bit on this. I'd love for you to share kind of when you had your epiphany about how am I showing up? Am I kind of wallflower here? How do I get more front and center in a way that's authentic to you?
Yeah. I've always been someone where I've been like very in tune with like what my gut is telling me, and I kind of have to act in that way. I've also kind of aligned myself to people where I feel like I can be my authentic self, or, they're the type of people I want to spend my time with or invest in. Um, but yeah, I came into an organization where it was very much like standing on the shoulders of giants. And, seeing people that were put on such pedestals, and they really were, I mean, the first of their time. They were pioneers, incredible speakers, authors, like the highest of education. And so I think when I first entered my career, I thought, oh, it'll take me a while to become a leader or to become influential because my bar was so high. I thought, to be influential in that way or be a leader, you have to have all these, credentials or stepping stones, or you have to speak or publish or do all these things. And so, even though I, grew up around leadership and leadership being a conversation, I don't think it was until I understood like my impact on people in day to day, or some of my first management positions where people said, you know, thank you, or I helped them step into leadership themselves, that I had this realization like, oh, I'm doing this now. Like I'm influencing now. It won't it You don't have to publish or have the credential or, again, be the founder to be influencing and leading people. But that was my misperception first, coming into this space.
Do you recall talking to people about that? Was it something you just purely observed? I mean, your parents were involved in the business. I'm just wondering if that was literally like, wait a second, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I I always have been told, again, kind of I'm a mover shaker, kind of, step into places, have influence, kind of like small, whether it's teams, like being a team captain or being in a difficult conversation. But I felt like my level of influence was small. And I think it took me a couple of conversations with people that I managed, mentored, like saw them rise in their career,
Mhm.
where I had people outside of my family telling me that it finally hit me. Because it means one thing for, your family to cheer you on, or the people, closest to you. But I think someone that you just meet through, the construct of work or outside of work, saying you had a really meaningful impact in my life, like that's when those perceptions started turning. Like that's when it became the meaningful work, that I'm approaching this in the right way, or influencing people and how they see themselves and their careers and their potential.
Yeah, that is so amazing. You said something about, I've always been someone who, you know, I'm, you find the people that you feel like you can be you around, right? So you're
Yeah.
selecting people. A lot of folks, I don't know that they're so comfortable, and it's not like we have to make anyone wrong or bad, but can you talk through maybe some situations where you were like, hey, this isn't really my sandbox? Because I think it takes some courage. And I think sometimes people go into these places thinking maybe it's something's wrong with me. It's like, actually, no, you're
Yeah.
okay. And that's just not the right fit. I'll just call it
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, I think, everyone's been in a meeting where you can tell when there's power at play over the people and the humanity. Um, you can tell when someone's like putting themselves before their team and throwing them under the bus. You can tell when there's divides in the culture because of this department versus that department. Um, I've always been someone who says, how can we like reach the goal that we want to reach, but also in a way that makes us human and looks out for others and builds a positive culture where we can all get on the same page and like towards the common goal. I think maybe the reason I have that is because I've been in one organization for my career and I still plan on being there for a very long time. So there's something about like the preservation of kind of like the bigger scheme of things that's more important to me than like the moment, the challenge, the problem right now. But I know that not approaching that the right way can perpetuate into toxicity that I don't want to be a part of our future.
That's huge wisdom. And thanks for calling that out. Because I have personally got involved with what I would call people first kind of organizations. Some of them want to be called evergreen. They really want to last 100 years. And
Yeah.
if you're really trying to go 100 years, you're not going to sweat the 1 month, 2 month, 1 week. You're
Yeah.
really thinking big. And so kudos to you, Susie, to really internalize that. Because I think it sounds great. Oh my gosh, here she is. But to actually do
Yeah.
it, but I guess partly because that was what was modeled for you, that probably seemed super normal. How have you had when you've
It
been
didn't
with
start that way. I'm just
ah,
gonna say. Yeah, I didn't walk in the door that way. I was pretty, "That's wrong, like, why are we doing that? Like, that person's spot." So, I had my moments too, I've learned the lesson, you don't rifle off the email, and, I had a sales rep one time walk into my office and say, "Hey, do we need to talk?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot that you could just, like, approach me in person after I sent that email." So, again, this is realizations in time and perspective that I now have that I didn't always.
so thank you for sharing that, because I think it also is easy to think that yes, everything was perfect. And
Yeah.
are there other, potential, I'll call them defining moments, lessons that maybe we wish we didn't do them. They're mortifying moments, but we're with this part of our journey. So I'm just curious if there are
Yeah.
any others that popped up like major learning moments.
That was definitely one. Save the email, pause, take a breath, especially when they can just walk right around the corner to your office. And again, I think someone who like strongly believes in like what they believe, have to like trust my gut. I have found times where I've been the one that's kind of stuck my ground in the departmental wars, like, well, product sees it this way. Um, and just not having the perspective of the other department or department lead and really digging in my heels. But then coming to realize, like, that person is also on my team. Like, we're here for the same goal. And again, I plan on working here for a while. I actually really care about that person. Like, what am I doing? Like, how, even if I see it this way, like how can we through conversation come to a place where it's a win-win versus I win, you lose?
Yeah, this is so basic to say it skillfully, because so much of the winning conversations, like I
Yeah,
need to win. And I think so much of, I've seen a lot of training or development. It is about kind of how do you make things work so you, the individual, win. And believe me, we want individuals to win.
yeah,
But I think you in the center, and I think say it skillfully, is really about how do we change the game so that really everyone can win. And I think for folks who are out there, I can imagine they've had so many people, this person, that department, and
yeah,
it's easy to kind of blame and then kind of slightly victimize ourselves. And I really want to encourage folks to think, hey, if I have this heartache or headache that's going on for me, let me think about that. Are they all bad? Is there something that I'm doing? Am I being silent about something that really needs to be put out there? And I know that takes courage for people to do. Susie, have you had moments where you've known that you needed to say or do something, but you delayed? And I'm kind of just wondering how you've kind of gotten yourself over the hump, because it can be very easy to just kind of let it go and fester and just hope it goes away.
Yeah. I think something that I used to do more of, and it's still hard now, like no one wants to get in a conflict ridden conversation. No one, feels good about bringing up and wrestling through a difficult topic. Um, but what I've learned over time is you think you're just letting it go, and you're not necessarily. And when it comes up again, my executive coach calls it packing the cannon. Um, and you get to a point where if you don't have that conversation, one day you're the one that explodes, and the other individual's like, whoa, like, where did this come from? It felt like, the conversation or the conflict was this big, but that was a lot. Um, Obviously, you see that in personal relationships too, which we don't have to get into. But yeah, I've had those moments where I recognized, oh, yeah, I packed the can and I was trying to come across as agreeable and easy to work with and a team player. But I recognized like I didn't really let those things go, and it came out later, and that didn't serve either of us. And if anything, really hurt the trust between me and someone else. And we were rebuilding from such a lower place
Yeah.
than like where we could have been. And so, yeah, I try to keep that top of mind and say, let's address it now before it gets to
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, that's a very, I mean, that's a harsh lesson and it's a really positive one. How
Yeah.
would you say you are now, if you're honest? Like, I think lots of times, particularly for leaders, you kind of want to, you see things, you want to let it go a little bit. You don't feel like you have to, give input straight away. But how do you feel about your ability to kind of raise what may be a tough conversation in the spirit of helping the other person, of course?
Yeah. I think obviously takes discernment. Like, I'm not saying to go get in every little conversation either. So I don't have like a blanket response. Of course, there's things you have to let go. And I think you have to gauge for yourself and like the work at hand and the other individual, like what's worth having that conversation. But if it's something that like keeps coming back, well, then like you didn't really let it go. And let that be a signal or a part of your strategy that that's the conversation that you need to have.
Yeah, no, I think that intuitive, really listening to the wisdom within
Yeah.
is huge advice. So, can we segue to the doing it all? And I just want folks out there, you can have it all in life, cannot have it all necessarily at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, I'd love to hear how you're balancing being the person you want to be for yourself, for your spouse, for your kids, for your company, and
Yeah.
just kind of, because that in and of itself, figuring that out is a very unique individual
Yeah.
uh, thing.
Yeah. Well, one, I mean, maybe the perception from the outside is like you have it all or you have a great balance. I'll say I'm figuring it out to the best of my abilities. If you ask my husband, I got back from LA last night and he said, "Oh, thank God." So, we're figuring it out. We have a 3 and a 6-year-old. He did great these last couple of days while I was at a conference and speaking and getting the book for the first time. And so he's been cheering me on, but is also like, all right, like I need a break. I'm tired. So, yeah, I married a teammate, and that always helps. I also have a great team at the Center for Leadership Studies where there's so much trust there in terms of like how we keep things moving and collaborate even when I'm gone. And yeah, I have a great support system and family around me that they're excited for all of these new things ahead. Um, but yeah, I'm at a stage of life where I want to show up as a great wife, a great mom. I still have my operational role at the company where I oversee product development, and there's innovation and excitement there. And these new doors are opening with the book, and I think I'm just trying my best. And every opportunity isn't yes, because I don't want to spread myself too thin given how much I care about these other aspects of my life. But yeah, it's a lot of it happens through conversation. Like, is this one going to work? Is this timing going to work? How do I make sure I don't let this person down and make sure these initiatives don't stop at work if I'm going to be over here? And it's kind of situational, I guess.
Yeah, that's so apropos. Every opportunity is not a yes.
Right.
I love that. And
Can't
that's
be.
not easy. It can't be. And that gets tied back to just you, Susie, understanding like what is important for
Yeah.
me and playing that longer game and not
Yeah.
necessarily getting distracted by the shiny new objects that can be
Yeah.
very enticing.
Yeah.
What would you say is hard for you now?
Mhm. Focus. Like doing like I feel like I'm doing a lot of things at once. But I think when you're doing such a diversity of tasks or type of work, um, sometimes you feel like you can't do like one thing exceptionally well.
Hmm.
You can do a lot of things good enough,
Hmm.
and that's been a lesson for me as well. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I think I also have like, very high standards and I want to do well and be responsive. And sometimes it's giving just enough to each thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you make time for Susie and do what you need to stay whole? Because again, you're faking it really well if it's not, because it just like you seem grounded. I know you got back, you don't have enough sleep, so maybe you're half
Yeah.
asleep too. But you know what I mean? I think a lot of people out there, there's a bit of a guilt. I need to,
Yeah.
take care of all these people. I'm letting them down. And so I'm
Yeah.
just wondering how you've managed that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how honest we're being right now, but yeah, there's certain things of like, having a more consistent like workout schedule or health or like the thing that I'm finding is like if I want to work that into my routine, I'm doing that at 5:30 in the morning because in the evenings I want to be with my family and my kids and then during the day you're working. Um so I try to be as consistent as possible. But then there's some nights that you'd rather just sleep, and that's gonna be the thing that makes you feel good. But I will say my executive coach, again, like, just a huge influence in my life. He's like, "You show up at your best in all of these pillars that you care about when you take care of yourself." So, even if it's not the workout to your standard, what else makes you feel good? And I said, like, I always feel good if I get to be outside, like, in nature at some point during the day.
Mhm.
I cannot live my life in carpool lines in the car and then going straight into the office and then back inside my house. Like I have to see light or nature at
Yeah.
some point. So even if I can't get a, full workout, like even if I just take one lap and get some fresh air. So sometimes like time for Susie can be 10 minutes or it can be an hour on a different day. So, but
Yeah.
I do try to make time for it.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And I hope that people listening are realizing you matter. You need to make
Yeah.
time for you. And we have to give ourselves permission to
Yeah.
do it. It's
Yes.
definitely not an optional event.
Yeah.
Um, I am piqued because not just one, but two books. And so maybe a few words to help people understand the why, like why did you decide? Because, having done one book, boy, it's labor of love is not even come close to it.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
huge undertaking. So just a little bit about what prompted you and what you're learning about yourself and the experience of it.
Yeah. So the first book, which is coming out June 23rd, I feel like is like our represents our company. We call it almost like the situational leadership book. So it's leading others, navigating change, unlocking performance. Wrote that with Sam Shriver, who's been with the organization for over 40 years. I feel like he has like the, all of the knowledge, but all of like the history of the company as well. And that was a wonderful experience to talk about the situational leadership model, but in today's context. Um, So, talking about leading up, leading without hierarchy, your sphere of influence, how to navigate change, and what leadership styles are necessary when we're navigating this amount of change at like just the rapid pace. Um, so that experience has been great just because we've worked together for so long. People say, "What were the content calls like really like?" And we just flowed back and forth. Just very lucky to have had that relationship and that experience. And then with Marshall, so a book called Match coming out in November. I've known Marshall since I was 8 years old, and I've always kind of thrown little ideas at him here and there, and he's written a ton of articles with Sam Schreiber, so co-author on the book, and Alan Mullally and Frances Hesselbein, and I've always kind of orchestrated that for other people. And last year, I went to him and I said, "Approach," and he goes, "Well, it's because I knew situational leadership. I knew how to diagnose the context, the situation, and I applied the situational behaviors that I knew to my coachee. And often the coachee was struggling with their own situational leadership behaviors in the conflicts in the context that they were having at work." And so I was like, "Can we write about that?" So that's been Match, and obviously collaborating with him and so many others in the field of coaching has been an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, we'll bring it to a wrap. Is there something you've shared a lot, and I'm just curious if there one takeaway you would share with our audience, something them for them to ponder or maybe even take action on?
Yeah. I think so much of effective communication comes from our understanding of the situation. And what I have found, whether it's through leadership or coaching, whichever mode of influence, kind of this power of the pause, diagnosing the situation, and then adapting your approach. Um, so just appreciate getting to speak with you today about my experience in these projects. But yeah, the power of the pause and diagnosing for the situation.
Yeah, no, that's powerful stuff. And, it gets to the say it skillfully sort of shared reality is getting it out there, having everybody feel like they're contributing to the where we are at. Because even if you have a common understanding of where you want to get to, if we're not aligned on the accurate shared reality now, the situation now, we'll never chart the same path to get from A to B. And it's
Yeah.
so basic and it's so missing in a lot of places. So I want to encourage everyone, Suzie, you've modeled it so great to kind of do your part, play a role. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, there's no dumb questions, and you just getting clarity on that is something that really is all of our jobs. So Suzie, I am just cheering for you. If there's anything I can do to be helpful in this crazy rocket ship that you're on, you are really inspiring me
Thank you.
with how you're leading yourself first, and then how you're influencing and leading others. So, really a
Thank
blessing to
you.
have you on the show.
I am so grateful, and you have done enough by inviting me here today with your audience. So, just extremely grateful. Thank you, Molly.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. And to all you listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, for your support, for your courage to be who you are and say what needs to be said. I'm cheering for you. And when you say it skillfully, relationships strengthen, performance improves, and everyone wins.